Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Joining me now is Forbes tech reporter Alexandra Levine. Alexandra, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Brittany.
You recently investigated TikTok's policy when it comes to ads over the Israel-Hamas war, and the ads on Israel differ from the ads when it comes to Gaza. So how did you come across this?
TikTok finds itself in this incredibly tense moment, not only because there is this legislative threat in the United States to ban the app, potentially, but also because we're in a really high-stakes, fast-moving, complex moment with this war. And I'd say really the Ukraine-Russia war was actually the first TikTok war, meaning the first war that was unfolding at a time when TikTok had already exploded in popularity and had been really widely adopted around the world. But this war, I think, has thrust TikTok under the microscope even more in a very complicated way. I think that we've heard over the last 6 months since October 7th, claims from supporters of both sides of the conflict that their voices are being censored or being cracked down on the app, and that the algorithm is boosting one side and booting the other side, and TikTok denies that it favors either viewpoint. Those debates continue, but the reason we were so drawn to investigating the ads piece of this is because ads are, I would say, an overlooked piece of this, and arguably ads are actually the most persuasive thing you can have on this platform that has 1 billion people, because ads are paid, and because you pay for them, you can target them however you'd like. And so we really believe that ads, that we really wanted to look at the way that ads were sort of unleashed in the crucial early weeks of the war to see how that might have shaped global perceptions about things that were going on.
So I want you to take us back to a few days after October 7th. Obviously, we know when Hamas attacked Israel, they took over 200 hostages to Gaza, and a group wanted to put some ads on TikTok demanding the hostages' safe release. What happened?
During that time, these ads were submitted to TikTok, and the ads were, throughout the month of October, rejected. So again, during these crucial early weeks of the war. Around that same time, there were ads that were showing the growing and really devastating toll in Gaza that got through, and that were some of which were from humanitarian groups like the UN World Food Program, or like Doctors Without Borders, or Human Appeal, or Save the Children. And these were graphic ads that were showing just the suffering and the tragedy and the horrible conditions for the people in Gaza. And you would see, the hospitals in chaos, and the horrible images of the buildings in rubble. And it was really important to get those images out to the world and to be able to show those to people, especially given the enormity of TikTok's global audience. There were questions, however, from people inside TikTok in Israel about how come the ads about hostages were not making it through at the same time. Again, these were ads that were coming from a humanitarian group. This was a group that said it was not political. It was just trying to raise global awareness about the hostage situation. And they believed that this crucial early window of the war was a very important time to rally global support that would help them, they believed, demand the release and the return of the hostages home.
So you mentioned that the ads about Gaza did have graphic imagery. Did the ads about the hostages have graphic imagery?
The organization that was trying to run the ads is a group called the Hostage and Missing Families Forum. This is the leading grassroots volunteer organization that's just demanding the release of the hostages. When I spoke to them, they explained to me that TikTok said the main issues with their ads were that they were visually triggering, had visuals that were triggering, text that was triggering. They mentioned Hamas, which is against TikTok's policy for ads related to terrorism, and that they also mentioned the word hostages. So the organization said, we believe that we can compromise on removing the first 3 pieces of this, triggering visuals, triggering text, and mentions of Hamas, but you can't run an ad about a hostage that doesn't explain or state clearly that they are hostages. The advertisements that they shared with me that had been rejected over the month of October really showed the hostages living life before October 7th. One of them, for example, was a 47-year-old man named Elad Katsir. He was cheering in a stadium filled with sports fans, and that was one of the ads rejected. And notably, this past weekend, Israel announced that he was killed in January.